The Grand Convergence Hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian floor, its crystalline ceiling capturing the light of a dozen distant stars. Representatives from 47 species had gathered for the apex ceremony, an event held once every galactic cycle to demonstrate the pinnacle of evolution from each homeworld. Commander Vraxis of the Korthian Empire stood at the entrance, his 4 arms crossed in barely concealed superiority. Behind him, restrained by 12 armed guards and 3 gravitic field generators, the Korthian Razorwing shifted its massive bulk. The creature stood 4 meters tall at the shoulder, its obsidian scales gleaming like polished metal. 6 rows of crystalline teeth lined its jaws, each tooth capable of crushing starship hull plating. The Razorwing had ruled Korth's predator hierarchy for millions of years, and Vraxis intended to ensure every species present understood why. "The humans have arrived," announced SH Lara, the ceremony's coordinator. Her translucent tentacles rippled with what might have been amusement. Vraxis turned his primary eyes toward the far entrance, expecting to see a massive containment unit rolling into the hall. Humanity had been a recent addition to the Galactic Council, discovered only 3 cycles ago. Their planet, called Earth, was rumored to be a death world, one of those rare, horrifying spheres where evolution had gone into overdrive, producing an ecosystem of nightmare creatures that killed for sport rather than mere survival. The stories that filtered through trading posts spoke of massive reptilian predators from Earth's past, creatures called dinosaurs that made even the Razorwing seem tame. There were tales of apex predators that hunted in packs, of venomous creatures whose toxins could drop a Korthian in seconds, of massive ocean dwellers that swallowed prey whole. When Ambassador Chen walked through the entrance carrying nothing but a small, cushioned container, Vraxis felt his combat-trained instincts trigger a warning. This had to be a trick. Perhaps the humans had bioengineered something microscopic but deadly. Perhaps this was a container for some sort of plague organism or a nanite swarm. Chun, a middle-aged human female with graying hair and an expression of perpetual amusement, walked calmly to the center of the hall. She placed the container on the presentation platform and pressed a small button on its side. The front panel dissolved. What emerged made Vraxis's threat assessment systems crash completely. It was small. Absurdly small. Perhaps 30 centimeters tall, covered in orange and white fur that looked impossibly soft. It had large, green eyes that seemed to contain more boredom than predatory intent. A long tail swished behind it as the creature sat down, lifted one hind leg, and began grooming itself with a pink tongue. "This," Ambassador Chen announced to the assembled representatives, her voice carrying across the hall's audio systems, "is Marmalade. He is a domestic short-hair cat, one of Earth's most successful apex predators." The hall erupted in confusion. The Vrelic delegate's translation matrix actually sparked trying to process the statement. The Thorjon ambassador's respiratory vents hissed with what could only be laughter. Vraxis stepped forward, all 4 of his hands gesturing in the Korthian sign for grave insult. "Ambassador Chun," he said, his translator rendering his words in flat, clipped tones, "the apex ceremony is a sacred tradition. It is meant to display the pinnacle of evolutionary achievement, the ultimate predator of each homeworld. You bring us a small furry creature that appears to be cleaning its own genitals." Chen's smile didn't waver. "I bring you exactly what was requested, Commander. Earth's most successful apex predator. That thing." The Razorwing behind Vraxis roared, sensing its master's agitation. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder through canyons. Several of the smaller species representatives activated their personal shield generators. Marmalade paused in his grooming, looked directly at the Razorwing with eyes that contained absolutely zero fear or concern, and then went back to cleaning his paw. "Perhaps," suggested SH Lara diplomatically, "the ambassador could explain her choice." "I'd be delighted," Chen said. She pulled up a holographic display, and Earth's image materialized above them, a blue and green sphere wrapped in white clouds. "Earth is indeed a death world by galactic standards. Our gravity is 1.3 times standard. Our atmosphere's oxygen content creates an environment where megafauna can develop rapidly. Our planet's tilt creates seasonal variations that force extreme adaptability." She zoomed the display to show various creatures. A massive gray beast with a trunk, a striped feline with fangs as long as Vraxis's forearm, a spotted pack hunter with crushing jaws. These are impressive predators, certainly. Some of them could give your Razorwing a challenging fight, Commander Vraxis. Vraxis straightened slightly, mollified. But none of them, Chun continued, are the apex predator of Earth. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen and honored others, there are different kinds of apex predators. The Razorwing dominates through raw power. Admirable. Straightforward. But Marmalade here. She gestured to the cat, who had now sprawled on his side and was purring loud enough for the hall's audio sensors to pick up. Marmalade's species conquered Earth through a far more insidious strategy. She changed the hologram to show ancient human settlements. Approximately 10,000 Earth years ago, Marmalade's ancestors made a choice. They observed the rising dominance of one particular species on Earth, humans, and rather than compete with humans, they decided to weaponize them. Weaponize? The Threxian delegate leaned forward, her crystalline matrix resonating with interest. Cats, Chen explained, performed a simple service for early human agricultural societies. They killed the rodents that consumed our grain stores. In exchange, we gave them shelter and food. But here's where it gets interesting. She pulled up genetic data. Cats domesticated themselves. They altered their vocalizations to specifically target the same frequency range as human infant cries, triggering our parental instincts. They retained juvenile features into adulthood. The large eyes, the small face, the playful behavior, all designed to make humans want to protect and care for them. Vraxis shifted uncomfortably. The small creature on the platform had rolled onto its back, exposing its belly, paws curled. It was objectively adorable, and the commander found himself disturbed by his own response to it. But the true genius, Chun continued, is what happened next. Cats didn't just survive alongside humanity. They thrived as we developed civilization. When we built cities, cats came with us. When we developed space travel, cats came aboard our ships. We have records of cats on military vessels, research stations, long-haul cargo ships. There's even a cat aboard the ISS-12, our orbital research platform. She smiled. Today, on Earth, there are approximately 600 million domestic cats. They have convinced the dominant species on a death world, a species that split the atom, walked on their own moon, and developed faster than light travel, to wait on them hand and foot. We feed them. We shelter them. We provide them with medical care. We build them furniture. We buy them toys. We photograph them incessantly and share these images across our global computer networks. But they do kill rodents, yes? S.H. Lara asked. That is the exchange. Chen laughed. Oh, they kill rodents. They kill birds. They kill reptiles, amphibians, insects, and small mammals. Current estimates suggest Earth's domestic cats kill between 1 and 4 billion birds annually, and between 6 and 22 billion small mammals. They hunt not primarily for food, but for entertainment. For fun. She let that sink in. And here's the most remarkable part. They made humans love them for it. When a cat leaves a dead creature on a human's doorstep, we interpret it as a gift. We've convinced ourselves they're trying to feed us, trying to teach us to hunt. We find it endearing. The Vrelic delegates' bioluminescent patches flashed in alarm. They've engaged in mimetic warfare? Psychological manipulation? On a species-wide scale, Chen confirmed. Cats have successfully modified human behavior without humans even recognizing it was happening. They are, essentially, a parasite that has convinced its host that the relationship is symbiotic. And perhaps more remarkably, they may actually be right. She gestured to Marmalade, who had begun purring louder, the sound creating a peculiar resonance in the hall. Several delegates found themselves inexplicably relaxing. That sound he's making? Cats purr at a frequency between 25 and 150 hertz. These frequencies have been shown to promote healing in bones and tissues. Humans who own cats show reduced stress levels, lower blood pressure, and decreased risk of heart disease. We can't even determine if cats purr for their own benefit or ours, or if they've simply evolved to make the distinction irrelevant. Vraxis found himself staring at the small creature with new appreciation and a touch of horror. This is predation through infiltration, through manipulation. This, Chen corrected, is apex predation through evolution of a completely different kind. Marmalade's ancestors didn't need to grow bigger or stronger. They grew cuter. They grew more appealing. They made themselves indispensable not through force, but through manipulating the emotions and behaviors of the most dangerous species on the planet. She looked around the hall at the assembled apex predators. The razorwing with its massive claws. The Threxian venom weaver, dripping its deadly toxin. The Garrick tunnler with its seismic hammerhead. All creatures of obvious, direct power. Every species here brought a predator that dominates through physical superiority. Only humans brought a predator that dominates through psychological warfare and voluntary symbiosis. Cats didn't conquer Earth through being the strongest. They conquered it by making the strongest species want them to succeed. Marmalade chose that moment to stand, stretch in a long, elegant curve that showed off his flexibility, and then hop down from the platform. The hall's delegates instinctively tensed, hands moving toward weapons or shields. The cat walked directly toward Commander Vraxis. Vraxis froze. His combat training warred with his diplomatic protocols. The creature was tiny. It posed no physical threat. And yet, Marmalade sat down in front of the Korthian commander and looked up at him. Then, deliberately, the cat began to purr and rubbed his head against Vraxis's lower leg. The commander felt something strange happen. The vibration was soothing. The gesture felt friendly, trusting. Before he could stop himself, one of his lower hands reached down and touched the soft fur. Marmalade leaned into the touch, purring louder. "He likes you," Chin observed, smiling. Vraxis jerked his hand back, but the damage was done. Half the delegates in the hall had seen him, a decorated Korthian war commander, instinctively respond to the cat's manipulation. I see your point, Ambassador," Vraxis admitted quietly. Chin walked over and scooped up Marmalade, who draped himself over her arm like liquid fur. "The Apex ceremony celebrates evolutionary success, does it not? Well, by any objective measure, cats are among the most successful predators Earth has ever produced. They've achieved global distribution, guaranteed food supply, medical care, and protection from threats, all while maintaining their independence and hunting instincts. They've done this by evolving not claws or venom, but the ability to manipulate the most dangerous predator on their planet." She looked around the hall. "Your apex predators are magnificent, powerful, awe-inspiring. But ask yourselves this. If your civilization fell tomorrow, how would they survive? The razorwing needs vast territory and massive prey. The venom weaver needs specific atmospheric conditions. The tunnler needs particular geological formations." She held up Marmalade. "If human civilization fell tomorrow, cats would be fine. They'd just go back to being what they were before we came along, successful solo hunters. Or, more likely, they'd simply manipulate whatever species rose to dominance next." S.H. Lara's tentacles rippled with what was definitely amusement now. "Ambassador Chun, I believe you've made your case. Does anyone wish to challenge the human entry?" The hall remained silent. Several delegates were now viewing Marmalade with expressions ranging from respect to barely suppressed horror. "Then let the record show," S.H. Lara announced, "that Earth's entry in the Apex ceremony has been accepted. The human ambassador has successfully demonstrated that apex predation takes many forms, and that perhaps the most successful predators are not those who dominate through force, but those who thrive through adaptation." As the ceremony continued with other presentations, Vraxis found himself unable to look away from the small orange and white creature drowsing in Chin's arms. The razorwing could tear through starship hulls. The venom weaver could kill with a single drop of toxin. But Marmalade had done something far more insidious. He'd made the commander want to pet him again. Later, as the delegates mingled during the reception, Vraxis approached Ambassador Chin once more. "I must ask," he said quietly, "do humans recognize what has been done to them? Do they understand they've been conquered?" Chin smiled and scratched Marmalade behind the ears, eliciting another burst of purring. "Commander, there's an old saying on Earth. Dogs have owners. Cats have staff. We know exactly what's happened. We joke about it constantly. We call ourselves cat servants and owned by cats. And yet you continue to serve them." "Of course," Chin said simply. "Because here's the final piece of genius in cats' evolutionary strategy. They've made us genuinely happy to do it. The relationship may have started as manipulation, but it's evolved into something more complex. We get companionship, stress relief, pest control, and creatures that make us laugh. They get food, shelter, and medical care. Everyone wins. She looked down at Marmalade, whose eyes were half closed in contentment. That's what makes them true apex predators, Commander. They didn't just survive. They didn't just dominate. They created a system where their success is intertwined with their host species' happiness. They made us love our own conquest. Vraxis considered this for a long moment. Then, very carefully, he reached down with one hand and gently touched Marmalade's head once more. The cat purred. And Commander Vraxis, decorated warrior of the Korthian Empire, realized he had just been conquered by 6 kilograms of fur and evolutionary psychology. Across the hall, the Razorwing roared its dominance, a sound that echoed off the crystalline ceiling and made the floor vibrate. Marmalade opened one eye, looked at the massive predator with supreme disinterest, and went back to sleep. In that moment, every delegate in the Grand Convergence Hall understood exactly which creature was the true apex predator.